all comes to this, the coming of the king, the third King of the Rings movie, where the kings come back and he's hungry for ass. We begin this movie before the other movies to a tree-bound flapjack, a tree-bound flashback starring the little hobby Smiglet himself, except unlike other tree-bound flashbacks of other movies, he's not on a helicopter with a young sweaty man praying next to him with Credence playing in the background. He's on a boat with a young sweaty man fishing next to him with Credence playing in the background. The young sweaty man is his cousin, Beagle, and he wanted to take a little dip to check if the fish were actually in this pond they're fishing in, and when he goes under the water, what do you know? No fish, just rings. Wrong pond, I guess, dummy. Beagle breaststrokes up on the dirty-ass Power Bagel and grabs it out of the water to show his brother, Hobart Smigel. But Beagle didn't account for one crucial thing. This little Smiggy was hungry. So, Hobart Smigel tells his cousin to give him a bite, and his cousin is all, no. But then Hobart Smigel remembers the golden rule. Finders keepers, losers weepers. Thus, he proceeds to kill Beagle and find the bagel near his dead body. Listen, rules are rules. His hands were tied in that situation. But that is when Hobart realizes he's not hungry anymore, so he decides to save the Power Bagel and just keep it on him in case he gets hungry later, perpetually. Which ultimately makes Hobart start getting grosser and grosser over years of letting this bagel sit, and ultimately he becomes Gross Colin. No way you put those together, did you? Oh, you did? Oh, everyone did? Oh, the movie isn't trying to hide it anyway, so I'm just making an ass out of myself by making it seem like the movie wanted it to be a twist. That checks out. Anyway, like, a thousand million days later, we're back with the homies from the last movie, hot off a Fat W in Horn's Keep. You got White Gary, you got Legolas, you got Aragorn, you got Gimli, and Miriam Pepper, and the other ones too. They're going up to White Gary's evil ex-homie Salad Man at the top of his tower, and they're all there to say, "What's up, you old bitch?" And Salad Man shoots a flaming onion down at them because he got all up in his feelies. But right after he does that, the guy from the last movie, Grima Wormtongue, who no one thought was an evil double crosser for some reason, double crosses Salad Man. What do you know? And he sticks a fork right into his iceberg lettuce, and dressing starts shooting everywhere, and he falls from the top of his tower and sings a little song. Right before he gets forked by a cute little watermelon on the ground. I guess we can consider his salad tossed. All the crew is fairly indifferent to the incredibly gruesome death they just witnessed right in front of them, with this man they were all beefing with basically getting Gallaghered right in front of them. So much so that all their attention gets redirected to a cool rock that Miriam Pepper found right next to Salad Man's body. Great. The crew is so utterly unaffected by the death of Salad Man that they go into the city and start partying to celebrate his death. Miriam Pepper decides to admire his newly found cool rock. In it, he sees another flashback of Slendy Man on a helicopter with a young burning tree praying next to him with Credence playing in the background. Comedy rule of threes. No more of that exact same joke anymore. I promise. Miriam tells White Gary about what he saw, which makes White Gary tell everyone else that they're planning to attack this really cool city that he likes to go to a lot. So he takes Miriam with him to go ask returning character Franklin Delano Roosevelt from the last movie. You remember him, right? Remember Franklin? For some extra soldiers so they can fight, but then Miriam fucks up and told him that he's essentially the reason that his son Boromir died. Whoopsie daisy! Needless to say, FDR is pissed and tells them both to get the hell out of his office. So they do, but not without pulling a funny prank first. White Gary tells Miriam Pepper to light all these sticks up, which let all of FDR's soldiers know that they need help. Why wouldn't they just do that in the first place, you dummies? You dumbasses. You dummies. Aragorn tells Theoden about the whole thing too. He gets all riled up and sends a bunch of his dudes just to occupy the perimeter. Bet you've been wondering what's been going on with Sammy and Froyo this whole time, huh? Well, the answer to that question is they've just kind of been hanging out, still doing their thing, carrying the Power Bagel with Gross Colin leading them the wrong way. And where's he gonna lead them now? Oh, to the Lord of the Nine Asghouls, who definitely wants the power bagel and can definitely kick all of their asses, including Gross Colin, which makes you wonder why he'd want them running into him in the first place. It makes no sense. Gross Colin wants to play up the whole image of the funny fat guy trope to Froyo, so he throws all the food out and makes it look like Sammy ate it. Froyo's dumbass believes Gross Colin because why wouldn't he believe this disgusting cretin who's already shown that he's morally questionable before over his best friend that he's known forever? Froyo tells Sammy to fuck off out of his kitchen. Okay. Gross Colin then proceeds to tell Froyo to go into this cave with a giant man-eating spider in it, which I don't fully understand, because if Gross Colin's plan is for the spider to eat Froyo, who's holding the power bagel, wouldn't that mean that the spider would eat the power bagel too, and I guess poop it out later? So that would mean Gross Colin would have to also go into the man-eating spider's cave too and get the ring out of the spider poop. The plan is very flawed. Froyo almost gets eaten, but he gets out of the cave and Gross Colin starts immediately throwing hands with him, and Froyo tosses him off of a fucking cliff. And Froyo gets caught slipping again by the spider and pumped with some of that don't move juice, and then the spider wraps him up real tight and puts him in his fridge for some leftover Hobbit Chipotle. But then Sammy comes in and stabs that sucker in its abdomen? Exoskeleton? I'm not sure. But he takes care of the spider and then unwraps the Froyo burrito before him and assumes that Froyo has logged off. He has exited the chat permanently. So he takes the ring and finishes the rest of the quest solo. But wait a minute. A bunch of porks are taking this Hobbit burrito as if it were totally still good to eat. Oh, that's weird. Because if Sammy were actually the fat piece of shit that Gross Colin made him out to be, he would probably have been able to call a spade and a perfectly edible burrito a perfectly edible burrito. So was Gross Colin wrong? Confirming that Froyo is a gullible idiot? Again, I don't think the movie ever tries to make the case that Froyo is a smart guy. I'm literally just an asshole. Sammy gets his Froyo back by going to Murder Town and punching everybody in the stupid face. But then when he pulls Froyo out of the shit, he realizes that they've conveniently ended up exactly where they've needed to be for almost 3 movies. So they put on some Groucho Marx mustaches and glasses and fool every dumb idiot in Murder Town. But more on that later. Then we are back at Thetan's camp, and who else shows up but L. Ron Hubbard? And he goes up to Aragorn and explains to him that Morrowind is a dead game and it's no longer being supported. Aragorn is devastated by this news because Morrowind was literally his favorite game. So Elrond gives him a sword and calls it Hand Drill. Elrond also tells Aragorn that he needs to use Hand Drill to get to the center of that their throne because it's his in the first place. It belongs to him. It's his chair. It's a nice chair. It's probably made of oak or some sort of strong wood material being used. I don't know. Aragorn starts his hand drill conquest by getting a call for some spooky ghosts haunting some dude's cave. So he heads down there to bust the ghosts, but then he thinks he can probably use those ghosts to spook the porks out of John's doors, and they agree because they've always been down for some totally crazy pranks, because they're wacky guys anyway. Franklin Delano Roosevelt absolutely goes bananas because he thinks his son, Farmer Amir, is dead. So he tries to murder-suicide himself and his son in John's doors. A bunch of porks got in and are literally in the process of breaking every door in John's doors. But then White Gary is like, hang on, dude, don't murder-suicide Amir. I need him. But FDR doesn't like that, so he turns the murder-suicide into a regular suicide. Meanwhile, everything has absolutely gone to shit outside. Most of the doors in John's doors are broken. John, the owner of John's doors, is pissed because he's lost probably about 67% of his gross capital for the year to losses and damages. And to make matters worse, a bunch of fucking elephants show up. No one ordered the elephants, no one paid money to see these elephants, they have the wrong address at the wrong time, and John literally doesn't know what to do anymore. If you thought John was the titular king in the Return of the King, oh, you thought wrong, my friend, because he is never going to financially recover from this. That's stupid. To make matters even worse, guess who comes in on a sweaty dragon praying with Credence playing in the background? The Lord of the Nine Asghouls himself. Ah, ha ha! See? I did the joke again, because I'm a disappointment. He drops a horse on Thetan and is about to stab him in the face, but Thetan's little niece comes in to tell the Lord of the Nine Asghouls what she identifies as, and then stabs him in the face. Then Aragorn, now as a full-on Ghostbuster, comes in with a bunch of ghosts ready to prank everyone within a 15-league radius. So they all rush in, but now these ghosts that were once busted are now busting everyone left and right. They're busting on the battlefield, they're busting in the castle, they're even busting in the area where FDR almost killed his son. A bunch of sick freaks, if you ask me. Have some respect. So anyway, these sick little fuckers feel no shame for what they've done, and they sort of just peace out after it's all over. Anyway, back to Sammy and Froyo, whose disguise mission was a great success. They made it past all the guards, mostly because all of the guards started fighting Aragorn and the rest of the gang. But don't let that deter you from chalking up a point for the little guys. They get into the giant wood-fired oven of doom, where Froyo goes up to where you actually put the bagel in the toasting area, but uh-oh, he's not just hungry anymore, he's starving. Can you blame him though? You got this big long trip with a couple of big long boys. Froyo takes a pretty good-sized bite out of the power bagel and goes invisible. Sammy is there screaming at him, and Gross Colin somehow survived falling off of an entire cliff and comes back to get his ass beat yet again, and uses the power of smell to jump on the invisible Froyo and take a bite out of him. Gross Colin gets a hold of the power bagel, and he and Froyo both fall into the toasting area, where Gross Colin toasts the power bagel once and for all, and he himself gets fucking roasted into oblivion. Froyo doesn't though, because of his insane grip strength. The giant oven overloads and blows up everything surrounding it with bad guys on it. I mean, everything gets destroyed, but only if the bad guys are on it. I mean, I'm talking complete and total apocalyptic destruction as long as the bad guys are on it. So what the hell happened to Sammy and Froyo when the toaster oven overloaded and exploded? What else would happen, silly? They're unscathed, taking a nap on a conveniently placed rock that is a totally safe temperature, despite having miles of molten lava surrounding it, and then White Gary comes in on some big-ass birds and scoops them up. Anyway, back home, everything's good. Aragorn becomes king, marries this movie's version of the damsel in distress. The little homies get on a boat with White Gary, and they all go to college together, hinting at the beginning of an entire sequel trilogy that started with Coming of the King, Back to School. All communications of that movie franchise were destroyed in the conceptualization stage, so don't worry about it being released anytime soon. What did y'all think of this movie? Did you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Did I at least do a bad enough job of explaining it? What other movies should I explain badly next? Also, what other things just in general life do you want me to try to explain next? I hope you have a fantastic day regardless. Thank you for watching. I love you.